morning. You made it to work yesterday?
Made it to work today. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day? In this Chosava learning, we shall have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. We're learning Lili Nishma, Rabbi Goldbas Baruch Binyamin, and his son Ben Mitzian, and also for Shleim with Rabbi David Ben Sarah, and for Gedalia Getel Eliezer Ben Pegitz Prayer. Naftali, I didn't see you on. I thought maybe because you saw Rabbi Marzel yesterday, you took a flight back to Israel. We're on top of Samach Beis, right? Right on the top line.
Yeah.
Look at that. 62. 62A. There's Matzalai Meitzer Echad Aruch and Meitzer Echad Katzer. If the we're talking about someone selling a property.
Oh,
Showing this back.
Yeah, I could hear that.
So if someone sells a property, and to describe the boundaries of the property, he has one property that's long and one property that's one boundary that's long and one that's short. So like let's say this is the longer boundary, and up here he only does it until here. He doesn't do it until here. He just does half of it. Half the boundary. How did he do that? Did it because boundary on the bottom belonged to one person and the boundary on the top belonged to two people. So he said it's the border of the field is on the east. It's Reuven is the boundary on the bottom. It's Yehuda is the boundary. Yehuda is the longer field. So on the bottom comes out longer. So Amarav, Rav says regarding this, like Kanel Keneged HaKatzer, he only acquired corresponding to Reuven's field, which was the shorter boundary. You divide the longer boundary in half, and you only go according to the one that's shorter. Just make a line straight down. It's just about the picture that you're getting in Rashi. See that picture in Rashi? It's not a maze. It's a yeah, let me show you. Can I show you in here? Oh, the value is you need which value? You need volume 2. Suspicious. So what do you want to do? You want to get him a volume 2?
I have some questions for you.
Yeah, we have it in the Rashi.
You are who you say you are.
Every Gemara has it. No.
Yeah,
I don't know why the Koran doesn't have it, but the regular Rashi Gemara has it. The Gemara says that would be the Reuven's border, like Yehuda's border, and he only acquires half of it. That's okay. Amrulay Rav Kana Ravasi the Rav. So Rav Kana and Ravasi tell to Rav. Now those Osher and Moshe Chaim, you learned Sukkah. So this is exactly a comment that Rav Kana and Ravasi said to Rav and Masechta Sukkah. Totally different topic, but exactly the same words. He says, "Yikne Keneged Reish Tur." Yeshakaya.
He's raised right. Some June raised right.
So he says, why doesn't he acquire it in the diagonal? So the diagonal would be that you would take the field that only Yehuda has, that you acquire the diagonal line from Reuven's property to the edge of Yehuda's property. Follow? Instead of a straight line going down, diagonal, exactly like it looks in the Rashi. See the picture like this? Yeah. Okay, so
it looks like it's going straight down.
The top picture is going straight down. The next picture is the diagonal.
That one is diagonal on one side.
It's only diagonal on one side, correct? So half of it he for sure gets, and Rav Kana Ravasi is suggesting that he should get a half of the next part.
Wait, He's talking about this one and this
Either, it's the same thing.
one. No, it's someplace.
No, it's the same. It's the same ratio.
Who's
Okay.
purchasing
Oh,
that?
it's not about the property. It's just
It's about how much of the property is acquiring.
Yeah, who's acquiring what? Because in Phil's diagram has Ruvain, Shimon, Levi.
It's actually not,
So-
it's not below, it's actually. Well,
Is
this
it
lot
Levi
is-
acquiring this ownerless field
No.
here? So-
No, this has nothing to do with them. There's a buyer and a seller.
Uh-huh.
The seller is marking off the field that he's selling, marking off the borders of the field that he's selling. So he says, on the east, it's bordering Levi, and on this side, it's
Oh,
bordering
okay.
Reuben and Shimon. Now, he didn't say Yehuda, so he's obviously not selling something with it. So what is he not selling? So he held originally, Rav held that he's not selling the whole field. And
Who's selling what?
but not saying the person's
Oh,
name.
okay.
So the seller and the buyer is not in. This is
Okay.
just the borders. So originally Rav said he's selling only half the field. Kind of Rashi said, no, maybe he's selling the diagonal because he gave a longer border here. Because he said the longer
Oh.
border, maybe he's selling the diagonal. Yeah. This is actually not the Gemara that we're learning. This picture is not us. We're not up to there. We're holding right there. Okay. So Shasik Rav was quiet to that comment. It's exactly the Gemara in Sukkah.
You need to figure it out yourself. But no one in
The
this Rabbi was
Rashbam-
quiet.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Just wait 1 second. We'll see. We'll see that. Hold on 1 second. So the Gemara says now, Umayda Rav, Heichadika Meitza Ruvin Rishimon Mechad Gisa, Meitza Levi Yehuda Mechad Gisa, Midhav Le Lemichtav Le, the Ruvin Kneged Levi, the Shimon Kneged Yehuda, V'le Kasav Le Shmamina Kneged Reish Ter Huda Amalei. Now, the way the Rashbam learns this, and Shalom is pointing this out, that when Rav was quiet, that actually meant that he agreed to Rav Kana and Ravasi. So then the Gemara says that that Rav would agree in such and such a case. 1 second. He was quiet, he agrees to every case. That it should be diagonal. So the Rashbam explains that Rav, even before he was quiet, he would agree to Rav Kana and Ravasi in such and such a case. But after he was quiet, he agrees in all cases. That's the way the Rashbam is learning this. The Rashbam is learning that Shasik Rav means that Rav agrees. Yeah, you don't have to learn like that. You can learn this. There's other ways. Okay. So what does he agree? What case would he be agreeing to even before he agreed? Right? That's the way the Rashbam's learning. So he's agreeing that if there would have been 4 people that owned the fields on the outside the field that's being sold, you have Reuben and Shimon, and you have Levi and Yehuda. So he tells them the field corresponding to Shimon and Yehuda, and he also adds in Reuben, and he doesn't say Levi. So why do you add in Reuben? I don't know if you see that in the picture. Why do you add in Reuben if he's not selling anything over there? It must be that he's selling the diagonal. He's selling in the diagonal. Let's see if it comes out, if that's the correct names. Yeah. So Reuben in the field that's within the boundaries of Reuben and Levi, that's for sure sold. You have it the opposite way. Your pictures. Pictures in the article exactly the opposite. So ignore the names that I'm saying. Just A, B, C, and D. The field that's within C and D is for sure sold. And the problem is that A was added in also. It must be that it's a diagonal. They sold it in diagonal. Okay. Now the words Yikna Keneged Reish Tur is a discussion in the commentaries. What's that mean? It means, but I think the way the historians would say this is that in the ancient Hebrew, the Aleph was written like this. You know, the way we have
It's a V with a line through it.
a V with a line, yeah.
Yeah. It's
I didn't
supposed
know
to
that.
resemble like an ox.
Very good, an ox. The head of an ox. It looks like this, with the head of our cursive, our Hebrew script that we use for writing is more similar to the ancient Hebrew. Yeah. So in the ancient Hebrew writing, our cursive writing is like a C and then a line next to it. In the ancient Hebrew, it was a V and a line that went through it. So you would have like a corner, which was like a diagonal. So when he says "Keneged meant just a diagonal. Why doesn't he just apply the diagonal? Okay. Tur means a short. A tough and a shin are interchangeable for Hebrew and Aramaic. Keneged Reish, sure. Right. So the Gemara calls it Tur. Okay. Okay, next case. Meitzer Ruvain Mizrach Umayrav. Meitzer Shimon Tafin V'darim. So here I have two owners of the fields outside the field that's being sold. To the east and the west is Reuben. To the north and the south is Shimon. So they each have opposite property. Each of them own a field on the opposite end. Reuben and Reuben. Shimon and Shimon. All right. So he has to write in the document, Meitzer Reuven Ruchen train. The borders of Reuven are on two sides. Meitzer Shimon Ruchen train. He has to say the borders of Shimon are on two sides. Now the reason why he needs to do that is because if he doesn't, then you would say that maybe he just sold him half of the field on a diagonal, because it would say Reuven's border and Shimon's border, and then you would only get a field, a triangle field. But if he says Reuven's borders on both sides, then you have to get all the way to the bottom, not just the triangle, not just the triangle. Reuven's on the top, Reuven's on the bottom. So then, okay, so you have to get that. Shimon's on over here and Shimon's over here, so you have to get the whole field all the way across. He's not selling that half the field on a diagonal.
When the borders are specified, someone's obtaining land, you just like connect the borders together.
Right. Right.
That's what we discussed.
Okay. The Gemara has a question. If he says here's we're talking about a field in the center that is surrounded by a bunch of fields. So he only says the borders of the corner, who owns the corners of the field. So what does that mean? Does that mean that he's only selling him? It's obvious that he's not selling him just little plots of land on the corners. That's obvious. Question is he selling him from corner to corner, like an X from corner to corner? Or does that mean that once you say the corners, then you know everything in the middle? You're not just selling him an X, you're selling him the whole thing.
That's specify what payout is.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with that. Kamingam Maho. Let's say he tells him the borders of a whole side on the top, and then the borders of a whole side on the whole side on like an L. A gam is a Greek letter, right? Gamma. It looks like an L. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like an L. Okay, so the question over here, does that mean he's selling him just a piece of land along the border? Or does it mean that he's selling him? No, he told him two sides. So basically, you just fill in the missing, the dotted line, right? You can make fill in what the rest of that field is. It's very obvious. Just turn it into a square. That's the question. The Sirugin Mahal. What happens if there were 8 people that owned fields all around this? And he skips one at each, or skips one or two at each end. One of them is gonna. So he just gives one person on the top and one person on the side and one person. So in other words, there's two people on each side that own fields. So he just gives one of them on each side. So does that mean that somehow you got to work out diagonals over here? If he's applying from here to there and from here to there, working that out, or does that mean that he's really selling the whole, everything that's within those borders? Where it says, Teku. Let's leave it as a question. Now, what was the Rashbam's comment here on the Teku? It was an interesting piece. Well, that's later. That's later. We're going to have a later Rashbam that's going to tell us something interesting about it. Okay. What is Yima? You mean in the Hebrew letters here? Yeah. Aleph base.
Alphabet again.
Yeah.
It's a third letter, right?
Right.
So they sound the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all the same. What does it go?
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta.
H I J K L M N O P Q R S T. Q R S T is all the Hebrew letters. Does you start with Yud?
Oh,
No.
that's so cool.
J Yud Kaf J K Yud Kaf Lamed
Cool.
Mem L M N Nun. Samech is a little confusing because though it looks like an O, but that's not what it is. O would be the ayin. Ayin Pei. O P. Q is Kuf. R S T. Reishin Taf. It's all the letters.
Code breaker.
Is Coptic the same?
I don't know. But English is basically the. Yeah. Okay. Matzalai. Meitza Rishon. Meitza Sheni. Meitza Shlishi. Meitza Revi. Lai Matzalai. If he gave him 3 out of the 4 borders of the field, but he didn't give him the last border, what happens now? So the last border, well, you would just assume that it goes straight from border number 1 and border number 3. You would just draw a line down and you would have the 4th border. You don't need to give the last border. But why didn't he give the last border? So Amar Rav Kanakal. Rav says that you acquire everything, chutz mimitzer v, except for something on the last border. What on the last border don't you acquire? There's 1 row on the 4th border that you're not getting. And that's why he left it out. Shmuel Amar Afilu Meitzer v. Shmuel says, no, you're getting everything, even the last border, even the last row. You're getting all the way to the end. What does Shmuel do? Why did we leave it out? He says, okay, that happens. Ravasi, we had before, he was the one that asked him now. Ravasi Ravasi says, no, you've just acquired a field in the shape of the ches. You got 1 border, 1 row along the top, 1 row along the back, and 1 row along the bottom. You really don't get a lot of field over here because he didn't put in the last border. So the Gemara explains that Savalak Rav, Ravasi and Rav are more similar because the fact that he left out 1 border, the Damar Shiri Shire, obviously you're leaving out a piece of the field. Why didn't you put in the last border? Because you're not selling the whole field. So if you left out a piece, if you left out the border, then you're leaving out on the whole field also. So Rav and Ravasi, we're saying, are very similar. Only thing is Rav says you're only leaving out 1 row, and Ravasi says you're leaving out the whole field, the whole middle field. Yeah. Amar Rava. Rava says Hilchas Kanakal Chutz Meitzer Revi. The first version over here of Rava is that you acquire everything except for the last border, which is the opinion of Rav. but we only said this. Now it gets complicated. Now you have two ways. This you would know if you play with blocks. So you would know that when you want to make a square, you can either put it outside, right? Outside, you can put it inside. Okay. So when you're talking about the last border, is it going outside the other three borders, or is it absorbed inside the three borders? So Rav is saying that you always acquire the entire thing except for the last row. Now, where's that last row? Is that last row outside the edges of the border of the other two side borders, or is it included in? So he says like this: when do I say that you didn't acquire the last one? That's only if it's not absorbed in the inside. Abel mivla, but if it's absorbed in the inside, which means that it comes to the side borders are protruding, and this is flush with these borders, right? Doesn't go past it. The picture that I can lift up. My Gemara is a great picture. It's just my Gemara is big. No. Here, let's see if my Gemara. You see, that's okay. You see the two pictures there? One picture has the fourth border on the top. Another one has the fourth border within it. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Yitzi also has it. Okay. So what Rav is telling us is that in order that you don't sell the last side, like Rav was paskin, that's only if it's going to be outside. Aval mivla, but if it's absorbed, then you'll acquire the last row as well. And even if it's outside, that would also only be if there's a row of palm trees there that would give you 9 kav of fruit. So it would need to be significant that you left it out. Two conditions for it to be left out. First of all, it needs to be outside the other three borders. And second of all, it needs to contain a significant amount of fruit that was left out of the sale. But if one of those conditions is missing, either it's absorbed, even if it contains a lot of fruit, or if it's outside, but it doesn't contain that amount of fruit, then it's going to be sold together with the field.
When it was saying that, are we talking about that's how the property was, or that's how it's built?
Now, the property was like that, and when the person was selling it, he only says three sides. There was one row of trees in the field that were outside of those three. And did he sell that row as well?
That's the question, right?
So we're saying that if there was enough, if there was a significant amount of fruit on that row that was outside the field, so then he'd not sell. He was keeping that row. All right. That's where we're holding.
By the way, that's my boy.
Oh yeah.
Live off the old block.
So, Ikadamri. I'm sorry, I skipped the Michlal. This implies the chimuvla that if it's absorbed, that means if it's the last row is within the other three borders, so then even if it has a row of trees and that those trees have 9 kav, it's going to acquire it. So Gimel over there. And Mechlal. The two Mechlals here. Just 1 second, let me just say it. I lost the place. Mechlal, no, that's it. Okay, Ikadamri. There's another version of what Rabba said. The first version was that you acquire everything except for the fourth row, and that's only if it's not absorbed. Second version goes like this. Amar Rava, Rava says, you acquire everything, including the fourth row. It's basking like Shmuel. Looks like the basic. Basically, it's passing like Shmuel. When do I say passing like Shmuel? That's only if the fourth boundary is absorbed within the other three boundaries. But if it's not absorbed, like then it's really going to be passing like Rav. You don't acquire the last one. And even when it is absorbed, when do I say that you acquire it? Even when it's absorbed, that's only if you don't have enough. If there's not a lot of fruit on it. Doesn't you don't have a row of palm trees that don't have 9 kav, which is a significant amount. But if there is on it 9 trees that contain 9 kav, which is a significant amount of fruit, then you don't acquire it. It comes out that when he claims he's passing like Shmuel, he's actually being more like Rav. When he claims he's passing like Rav, he's actually more like Shmuel. Because all of the qualifications that you need to paskin like Shmuel, it really doesn't come out so often. I mean, paskin like Rav, all the qualifications that you need to paskin like Rav doesn't happen so often. You usually paskin like Shmuel. That's what's coming out. Michlal, this would imply the chilei movla that if it's not absorbed, then afagav the lekalarich with the declared coming like kana. If it's not absorbed, then even if you don't have a lot of row of palm trees, and you don't have a 9 kav, you don't acquire it. It's really what Rav held. So he looked like he was passing like Shmuel. It comes out as like Rav. Shamina mitavayu, the Gemara summarizes this. That where is the machlekes here? It's really only in one case. It says Shamina mitavayu l'shnei Rav. We learned from both versions of what Rav said. The besada leishiv leimidi. That you're not leaving anything out from the field itself. You know, so we're not going like Ravasi. Ravasi said that you're only getting around the border like a ches. No, we're not saying that. And we also know we know that you're acquiring 100% of the field if the fourth border is absorbed into the field and you don't have a lot of fruit on it. That's 100%. Everyone would agree that you get the entire field. That would be like Shmuel. Question is, if it's not absorbed, that means it's protruding. And it also has. No, this is not the question yet. This is also everyone agrees. If it's protruding and it has on it fruits, then Ravi Teskaban like kana that you don't acquire it, and that would be the Rav's opinion. Mivla v'ikala, if it's absorbed and it has a lot of fruits, or loy mivla v'lekala, or it's protruding and it doesn't have a lot of fruits. So then itmar lo lahagisa v'itmar lahagisa. Then we have two versions of this. Some say that it's this way, and some say that it's that way. And should the daini, and we let the judges decide. No, because that he gave borders for. We don't have any questions. No, whatever's within the borders is sold. The question is, he didn't give the last fourth border. So the question is, does it extend a little bit further to the fourth border, or did he leave out a piece on the fourth border?
I'm wondering if it was different because yesterday there was some areas that if there was a different
Yeah, but the field and fruit is what a field is used for, right? Used for planting. If you would tell me if there was a bathhouse there, or something, so maybe that wasn't really sold. But,
yeah. How would someone buy these 3 borders and not the fourth?
Yeah, so.
Or would somebody buy property in Sebring?
He's buying property. And when they were describing the property, they didn't put on the fourth border. So he doesn't know where it ends. He knows he owns everything within this, but he doesn't know if it goes a little further or did it just end at the last line. you draw an imaginary line from the top to the bottom. So it depends on how big the next area is and how much fruit there is. If it's a large area, then we're going to say, and there's a lot of fruit, 9 kav, and we'll say maybe but he didn't sell it. And if that it's absorbed, then we say that he did sell it, even if it's 9 kav. Okay, now there's a problem with what happens over here. Let's see this again in the Rashbam. The Gemara says, Shuda the Daini, which means the Dayanim throw it. Which means however they want. We had a difference in opinion of what Shuda the Daini meant. It Shuda the Daini mean that the way that they understand the person based on the person's knowledge, based on the way they know the seller, what he would have meant, or the Shuda the Daini mean just based on their own interest, on the Dayanim's own interest. Yeah, remember that's what we had before in this. Now, he says this is only in this case. However, in other cases, we don't say Shuda the Daini. Rather, we would say Amaitzi Mechaber al Varaya. You have to prove it. Yeah. Basis points out. Even though usually we say Amaitzi Mechaber al Varaya, but over here, we would say Shuda the Daini.
I think this phrase is used when there's so much ambiguity that you have trouble even figuring out who's the muksak.
Right. Before on the Lamed Beis, remember the Rashbam had an interesting comment back here. How should the Daini work?
It was like 2 pages back.
From this?
Could be mistake.
Okay. The next Gemara goes like this. Amar Rabba. Rabba says, if someone sells the field to his friend, and the problem is that this fellow that's selling the field is a partner with someone else. So he actually only owns half the field. It says, Palga the Isli Ba'ara. It says half that I own in the field. So how much did he sell? He owns half the field. It says half that I own in the field. Did he sell half of the field, which is everything that he owns? Or did he sell half of what he owns, which would mean a quarter?
Are we talking about the case here with the fence?
No,
No, with the one.
it's just an expression. We're just talking about the expression of half that I own in the field. And he only owns half the field. So it doesn't mean that he's
No, because
selling
we said
half of one.
before that if it's diagonal, don't forget it's the bottom half. A bit better than the top half. Or it's the opposite.
Oh.
It might get extra field or not.
I mean, in the case where it was diagonal,
Yeah.
it could be that one side has more fruit than the other. It's true. It's true. Yeah, but over here, he's a partner. Okay, so let's see. The first halach is that he's selling mamish half the field. Okay. Next case is Palgabar Disli, half of the land that I have. What did he sell now? See, the comma is important here. half of the land, comma, that I have. That means he would own the whole thing. That means he's selling mamash half. Or he's saying half of the land that I have, which he owns half, and he's selling only half of that, which would mean a quarter. So, Riva, the Gemara says that that's a quarter. Now, both of these expressions, you can put the comma in different places, and you can get either answer. Says the first expression was half that I have in the land. We said that he was selling half the land, which was everything that he had. Half that I have. He's selling the half that he has. But it could also be half that I have, which would mean half of what I have, which means he's only selling a quarter. Amalei Abaye says to Rabba, what's the difference? You're saying one is he's selling half and one is he's selling a quarter. It should be both the same thing. Now, Abaye is trying to say that he should get half in both cases. Ishtik, Rabba's quiet. Amar Abaye says, Anas Sabri, I thought the fact that he was quiet, that really he accepted my question. He changed his mind. But it's not so. Because because we saw documents that came from the house of Mar, which means Rabbah, and in it was written, the following. Palga disli ba'ara palga ba'ara disli riva. Now, how did those documents say that? Apparently, there was a land that was sold, and in the documents it said how much land was sold, and with those expressions, and the expressions were divided up. That if he said half that I have in the land, then he sold actually half the land. And if he said half of the land that I have, then he sold only a quarter.
When Amora is silent, he's conceding that wrong.
Right. And over here, we're not. Another statement from Rabba. Meitzer ara demine palga is palga. Meitzer demine psika is teskabin. Okay, so he's selling a field to Reuben is selling a field to Shimon, and he's not selling him the whole field. He's only selling him half. So he's keeping half for himself. So he writes the boundaries of the field, and it would be like the boundaries he's writing is like the surrounding boundaries. The only thing is the middle boundary, which would divide between him and Shimon's field, those two fields here, he doesn't tell him where to put the line. So where this line is like this movable line. Where do you want to put it? He's selling him from the top to the bottom an entire row. Question is, how deep into the field is he selling? Is he giving it? So it depends on the way he wrote it. If he says the border of the land that I took half, so then that means he's dividing it in half. If he says the border of the land that I've that I've cut, so then he's only giving him a little row at the edge of his field all the way down. Is that the expression that they use there? Depends if he says that I divided in half, or that I split, or I cut. Amalei Abaye. Abaye says to him, what's the difference? Split would also mean in half. The ishtik, he was quiet.
split was on this.
Could be in there. So the fact that he was quiet, Savra Minei, now here it's the other people that were there, thought, Idi Palga, that both of them would be half, because Rabba would agree. The only thing is, but it's not so. Rav Yemer Bashalmi said, I actually heard from Abaya that it says like this: Bein Meitzar Ara D'minei Palga, Bein Meitzar Ara D'minei Psika. Whether the border, the missing border, was said in it's bordering the property that from it I divided, I gave half, or from the border of the property that from it I split, then now, what we're learning here is that if he uses extra expressions to describe the border, if he adds in the words, and these are its boundaries, so then that means that he's giving a larger amount. And if he doesn't add in the words, and these are its boundaries, he doesn't make it that's the flowery expression. So then he's giving him less.
Is that like a common custom or something? Like a industry term?
That's what it seems. It seems that whenever he uses extra expression, it means that he's being more generous.
What's the logic to that view?
Yeah, that's all.
No, I think in general, Meicher it's a discussion if Meicher buying Yafa Meicher or not. Someone is selling, is he selling generously or is he not selling generously? When it comes to a gift, I think we said everyone agrees that a gift is always being generous. But when he's selling, is it generous or not? So it depends on the expressions that he's using. If he uses flowery expressions in the sale, then he's being more generous. That's what it seems. Shita, actually, let's stop at the two dots.
Oh, we're just having fun. Let's get going.
Let me say hi to Shalom.
Okay.
Going.